What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. It's only been a couple of days of real Red Sox spring training games, and already there is a ton of stuff we need to talk about. We need to talk about Masataka Yoshida, seeing him in a Red Sox uniform for the first time, what his at-bats looked like. We need to talk about the bizarre ending to the first Red Sox real spring training game of 2023 that may or may not have set MLB history. And we got to talk about Bobby Dalbec, who for the third year in a row is off to another hot start in spring training. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to go over all the biggest storylines to come out of the first weekend of Red Sox spring training. We're going to go over everything. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Let's start off with what I would consider to be the least important news out of the three things we're going to be talking about today, and that is that Bobby Dalbec once again is off to a hot start in spring training, which should surprise absolutely nobody because, like I said in the intro, this seems to be the third year in a row Bobby Dalbec is going to have a really good spring training, because in his first game of spring training he went 2 for 2 with a double to the opposite field as well as a home run to the opposite field and 2 RBIs. Now, one thing I will point out that's a little bit different than what we've seen from Bobby Dalbec in spring trainings in the past is that he's really trying to drive the ball to the opposite field. He wants to use all the field and really kind of excel with that power naturally as opposed to trying to force it into a pull type swing. Now, I don't take a single ounce of a spring training performance into consideration when I think about how these guys are going to do during the regular season, mostly because we've seen it a million times before. And with Bobby Dalbec specifically, we've already seen this before, right? Where he has a really nice spring, he looks like he's really turned a corner, and then he gets to the regular season, and while he does have some good months throughout the season, he really kind of struggles to be consistently good at hitting at the plate, especially at the beginning of the year. So in my opinion, it's great that Bobby Dalbec's getting off to a hot start yet again, but I don't know how well this is going to translate to the regular season. Now, this could be the year that Bobby Dalbec did figure it out at the plate. Like I said, he's trying to use all sides of the field, something he rarely does. He's mostly a pull hitter, so to see him go to the opposite field with power, it is a good sign. Again, do I know if it's going to translate to regular season? I don't. I think the biggest difference this year in terms of Bobby Dalbec's spring training performance is that he doesn't have a set spot on this team. For the last 2 years, Bobby Dalbec was our starting first baseman. This year, he's kind of in no man's land. So spring training is going to be an important indicator as to whether or not he even starts the year with the major league team. To me, that's going to be the biggest difference and why I'm even putting Bobby Dalbec in this news category, because it could indicate whether or not Bobby Dalbec starts at AAA or if he's a bench piece for this Red Sox team, which again, we've talked about it a million times on this channel. I don't know how well Bob would be as a bench type sort of situational hitter on this Red Sox team, but it feels like we've talked about Bobby Dalbec like 7 times in the last week on this channel, so let's move on to something else. The Red Sox first legitimate spring training game against the Atlanta Braves was one of the wildest endings to a spring training game in Major League history. Bottom of the 9th, bases loaded, 3-2 count, prospect for the Braves, Cal Conley is at the plate. Cal Conley starts making his way to first base, but wait, here comes the umpire. He signals strike 3. Why? Because Cal Conley was not in his batting stance, ready to receive the pitch by the new pitch clock rules at 8 seconds. According to the new MLB pitch clock rules, when there are runners on base, pitchers have 20 seconds to deliver their pitch, and batters have to be ready and in their stance to receive a pitch at the 8-second mark. Cal Conley was not ready to receive that pitch, and the game ends in a tie. Now, this is the first time, obviously, in Major League Baseball that a game has ended on a pitch clock violation because it's so new. I did some deep dives into this pitch clock violation, and I could not find a single minor league game that ended in a pitch clock violation. So while I can't say 100% for certain that this is the first time this has happened in professional baseball, I can say that it is extremely, extremely rare. In fact, the only other example of this that I could find anywhere was a game coincidentally in college that ended the day before, kind of in the similar situation. So Red Sox making history in terms of MLB level just because of how quickly it happened, but they could have also made history in terms of professional baseball for a game ending on a pitch clock violation. Again, I cannot 100% confirm that, but what I can 100% confirm is that it's the first time it's happened in Major League Baseball. Now, as for the pitch clock in general, which did make its debut this weekend, I don't hate it. I actually don't mind it at all. I find myself being more engaged with every single pitch because it seems like everything is happening so much faster and you need to pay attention to everything. But at the same time too, it does feel a bit rushed, and obviously that could be because it's so new and a little bit clunky in Major League Baseball. But I just feel like if you gave pitchers an extra 25 seconds, if you gave hitters an extra 5 seconds in the box, or just took away the have to be ready at 8-second rule, it would make things go a little bit smoother. My hope is that all of this gets worked out before the regular season starts. I think for the most part it will, especially with younger guys because they've been doing this before. But my biggest fear with the pitch clock is something like this happens when games actually matter. Imagine you're in game 162 of the 2023 season watching the Boston Red Sox, and if the Red Sox win, they make the playoffs. If they lose, the season's over. It's a 3-2 count. Alex Verdugo's at the plate, and for 22 years of his life, he has stepped out of the batter's box, taken a deep breath in a big situation and gotten back in, and he does that out of instinct, right? But that winds down the clock and boom, there's strike three, the game's over, the season's over, all because of a pitch clock violation. That's what scares me about the pitch clock right now. Again, I think most of it will be ironed out by then, but it's still new and a little bit freaky to me. Let me know what you guys think of the pitch clock down below. I like how it intensifies the game, but it does make me a little bit nervous with the violations. And finally, we got our first look at the Red Sox biggest free agent acquisition of the 2023 offseason, Masataka Yoshida in a Red Sox uniform and playing for the Red Sox in game situations. Now, on the field, Masataka Yoshida looked really fine. Obviously, he didn't really get anything during the 2 games that he played in terms of defense that would really test his defensive ability. So we're really not going to know for sure what his defense looks like until probably a couple of months into the regular season once we have a big enough sample size. But so far in the really tiny sample size, he looks really fine in left field. As for his at-bats, they went really well. In the first game, he had a couple of really hard fly outs, one to center field, one to right field. The one to right field was a sacrifice fly, which he stated after the game was exactly what he was trying to do. He had 2 strikes on him. He knew Rafael Devers was at third. He wanted to push the ball in the air if he could and get a productive out at the very least, and that's exactly what he did. So it's nice to see that his approach is already starting to work a little bit at the major league level. And in the second game, he had his first hit in a Red Sox uniform. It was a double off the right center field wall. It actually almost got out of here. It missed being a home run by like 2-3 feet, which is kind of cool to see. Hopefully he has a little bit more power than most people are anticipating. That would be absolutely fantastic. But again, like we talked about with Bobby Dalbec, I'm not entirely going to look super in detail as to Masataka Yoshida's results from at-bats in spring training and try and translate that into what it's going to look like in the regular season. Mostly because, again, we've seen it 100 times where guys look really good during the spring training and it doesn't translate to the regular season, or absolutely vice versa, right? Where guys look terrible during spring training and put it together for the regular season. So I'm not going to look too deep into Masataka Yoshida's statistics and at-bat outcomes during spring training, but what I will say is right off the bat, he looks really good at the plate. He looks like a guy who is going to trust his approach and trust his recognition of pitches and really try and drive the ball to all fields and be a situational type hitter, which would be an absolutely fantastic addition to this Red Sox team. Now, one thing I do want to see, hopefully from Yoshida before he leaves for the World Baseball Classic, which is probably going to be sometime this week, I would love to see Masataka Yoshida face more MLB caliber type pitching, right? In the first game, it was an exhibition against Northeastern. In the second game, it was a game against the Tampa Bay Rays, who are trying out a lot of their prospects like we were. So he hasn't really faced true MLB level talent yet, and I hope he gets to do that before he leaves for the World Baseball Classic. Now, obviously, he's going to be facing a lot of dudes in the World Baseball Classic that are MLB talent pitchers, but it would be nice to see it in a Red Sox uniform. So I hope we do get to see that. Again, results, in my opinion, really don't matter. It's just cool to see Masataka's first hit in a Red Sox uniform. In my opinion, it's way more proactive to be more attentive to how he approaches at-bats as to actually the results of the at-bats. And that's kind of it. Outside of that, the Red Sox are undefeated in spring training so far. Granted, it's only 3 games, and one of them was a tie that ended obviously in that pitch clock violation. Our young pitching looks fantastic. Winkowski looked good, Maeda looked good, Murphy looked good, right? A lot of our young pitching is looking really good early on. Fitzgerald is kind of making a little bit of a name for himself again in spring training. So again, it had only been like 3 full games of spring training so far, and there's been a ton to talk about. If this spring training continues this way, we're going to have so many storylines and a lot of fun covering it for the entirety of March. Before that does happen, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of these stories? What do you think of Bobby Dalbec starting spring training hot yet again? Do you think it's actually going to translate this time? What do you think of the pitch clock and the way that that first real spring training game ended? Do you like the pitch clock? Do you not like the pitch clock? Are you somewhere in the middle? And what did you think of Masataka Yoshida's first hits and at-bats as a Boston Red Sox? Did it make you excited? Did it make you nervous? What are your thoughts so far on Masataka Yoshida? Let me know all your thoughts on every storyline with the Boston Red Sox in the early days of spring training down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.